Hello YouTube and welcome to Prime Productions. I'm here to help enhance your tabletop gaming experience. If you're new to this channel, I primarily focus on Paizo tabletop role-playing games like Pathfinder and Starfinder. So for a while I've wanted to make a video that highlights community members like you, and I think I finally found a fun way to do that. On my YouTube community tab, I asked for submissions for fun, strong, and underused character builds to put into a video, and you guys delivered. Now before I dig right in, I should get some ground rules on this video. The idea here is to showcase viewer character builds that are strong but don't see a lot of use. And by strong, I do not mean the best, most powerful build ever. I mean, they work well and do their job. This is a video more about, I never thought about doing that, and less, here's the perfect build mathematically. Let me see if I can give you an example. I guess this goes under the honorable mention section because I came up with it, though I'm sure others have as well. I call this the Tiger Stance Goblin, and it's pretty simple. Make a Goblin Monk and grab the feat Goblin Scuttle, which lets you step as a reaction if an ally ends their movement adjacent to you. Then grab the Monk feat Tiger Stance, which says when you take the step action, you can step 10 feet instead of 5. So in this build, if a friend like a rogue ends their movement adjacent to you, you can, as a reaction, step around to flank. Since monks tend not to use their reaction all that much, this is great for them. And it helps to set up flanking, which benefits everyone. And because you can step 10 feet under the right circumstances, you can even step around to flank large enemies. Another honorable mention I wanted to talk about was the good old Forensic Investigator Medic. This one was suggested by There's No Race Like Gnome. Love that username, by the way. Now, they are new to the game and figured out that the Forensic Investigator and Medic archetypes work really well together, as both let you cheat the once-a-day cooldown on battle medicine in different ways. Now, this build is actually pretty well known, so it's in the honorable mention section, but I wanted to call it out for a new player coming up with it on their own. Good job! Moving on to the actual list. Coming in at number 5, we have the Healing Ranger. One of the inspirations for this video actually comes from Chew over on Swing Ripper's Discord channel. They clued me into this Healing Ranger build, which is pretty cool. The idea is to be a ranger, and after that, as soon as you can, grab the advanced warden spell Soothing Mist. This spell heals people at a range of 30 feet, kind of like a ranged lay on hands, though it is 2 actions. The basis of this build is to sit in one spot, shoot off arrows, and then if someone needs healing, you can Soothing Mist them and keep going to town. Plus, it provides infinite out-of-combat healing if you have the time, and some GMs are kind of persnickety about out-of-combat healing. Now, the action economy can get a little tight with needing to hunt prey before firing off archery shots, but you won't be needing to cast Soothing Mist every round, so it should be fine. If you can work it into the build, I might suggest getting proficiency with the Hungali Hornbow, as that is a bow that does D8 damage, but doesn't have the volley trait, and you can pick it up with the Human Feat Unconventional Weaponry. Also, one last note, this build should work with the Flurry or Precision Ranger. It just depends if you want one big shot around or 2 smaller shots. And from there you can go into a million different directions, like grabbing Monster Hunter or more Warden spells. Feel free to make the build your own. Next up at number 4, we have another inspiration for this video, a build that was introduced to me by Swing Ripper himself, though others have since told me about it. Apparently the community calls it the Ruffian Fallback Rogue, though I've never seen it used in person, so it's on the list. The idea is to build a Ruffian Rogue. Now remember, their key ability score can be Strength, and they can sneak attack with a martial weapon that does a D4 or D6 damage. So they can grab a one-handed weapon with the two-handed trait like, say, a katana, and sneak attack with that. Then, if they run into an enemy that's immune to sneak attack, like, say, a ghost, they can just fall back to putting their offhand on their weapon and trade up to a D10 damage die to help offset the lack of sneak attack damage. A katana seems like the best weapon for this personally. I like the deadly D8 trait, but there are other options that work too, like an Earthbreaker or a gnomish hooked hammer. For some extra oomph, you could wield a gauntlet bow in your offhand. This freehand weapon has the parry trait, meaning that if you aren't two-handing your weapon, you have a free hand and can parry for a +1 to AC. Also, it's an emergency ranged weapon if you need it. Next up at number 3, we have the Kaiser in Jackie's character, a monk druid. Now, their original message was a bit unclear on what they meant, but it got me thinking, and I think I have 2 builds that work this way. The first is to go Monk and then grab Druid archetype for Untamed Druid, and then get the Order feat Untamed Shift. This lets you, as an action, grow Claws, which works with your natural attacks, including Flurry of Blows. Now this doesn't do much for you normally. Your Claw attacks give you a d6 unarmed damage, just like your Monk strikes. But when you hit level 11, your Claw unarmed attacks deal plus 2d6 persistent bleed damage. And if your Untamed Shift also gives you a Jaws strike, which you can grab with another feat, that does plus 2d6 persistent poison damage. So yeah, you can Flurry of Blows, and if both hit, you apply up to 4d6 persistent damage. The other option is to go into any form of Druid, or any primal spellcaster really, and then grab the archetype into Monk. Then at level 10 you can pick up the Monk's Flurry feat for Flurry of Blows, which works well in any of the form spells, like Dragon form. So your dragon can Flurry of Blows with their natural attacks. Now, both versions of these builds come online a bit late, but if anybody has tried it out, let me know. Coming in at number 2 is another one that seems to be somewhat common, but I haven't actually seen it used all that much, and that's the Free Hand Shield Warpriest. Bavarian Writer mentioned this in their community post, but Swing Ripper is also fond of this build, and I discovered the build myself when playing through Dawnsbury days. The idea behind this build is that you are a Warpriest with a shield, preferably a sturdy shield, and a free hand. That way you can shield block and also have a free hand for grappling, tripping, having a scroll in your hand, whatever you need. There are actually a few ways to build out this character. The basics are make a Warpriest, grab a shield. As for the optional ways of doing it, the first way is to choose to be a Warpriest of Aurori or some other deity with Fist as their favored weapon and punch people with your free hand. Warpriests of Aurori automatically increase the damage of their unarmed strikes to d6, so there you go. You could accomplish something similar by being an ancestry with a natural attack, like a Nephilim with a hoof attack. These builds run into the problem of needing hand wraps of mighty blows for their unarmed strikes to be worth anything, meaning they cannot also wear healer's gloves, which is a pretty common cleric item. But there are other options, like choosing a deity that has Shield Boss as their favorite weapon, like Aelith. This lets them shield bash really well, and leaves the other hand free. Or you could choose a deity that has Spiked Gauntlet as their favorite weapon, like the Divine Dare, and use that free hand weapon instead. And because of the abilities of a Warpriest, if a Spiked Gauntlet is their favorite weapon, it also becomes a d6 damage weapon. The final build, number 1, was suggested by Guardian of Eden for the surprisingly damaging Mounted Thaumaturge build. The build is to go Thaumaturge and have your implement be a weapon, in particular a lance. Then pick up the Beastmaster dedication or get a horse some other way. Actually, I'd suggest being small-sized and picking up a medium-sized pony so you can fit in those tight dungeon corridors. Now, this one gets a bit technical. Here is how it works. Remember, a lance is a one-handed weapon when you are mounted, and thaumaturges do +2 untyped damage per weapon damage die with one-handed weapons. Also, if you're mounted on a horse and use its special ability, and you move at least 10 feet or more, your attacks also get a +2 circumstance bonus to damage per damage die. As a thaumaturge, if you exploit weakness, your enemy has a weakness to all of your attacks equal to 2 plus half your level. So you, Action 1, exploit weakness the enemy. Assuming you don't critically fail, you give them a weakness to your attacks. Action 2, command your horse. Horse uses 2 actions, 1 to activate its special ability and 1 to move at least 10 feet to the enemy. Action 3, strike. Assuming you're level 6 and have a lance appropriate to your level and are maxed out in strength, your strike does 2d6 damage, +4 from strength, +4 from thaumaturge stuff, +4 from lance charging, and the enemy takes an extra 5 damage from you for an effective total of 2d6 plus 17 damage. That is crazy. Now this build isn't perfect. You may not be able to lance charge every round. For example, if an enemy is out of range of your pony's 40-foot move speed. Also, you have to roll decently well on 2 rules, 1 to exploit weakness and 1 to attack, so it isn't a perfect build. And if your mount goes down, you are kinda hosed as you have to 2-hand a lance on foot, meaning you don't get that thaumaturge bonus to damage. But when it does hit, it will hit hard. It's a risky build, and some people are here for that. I do realize it's not for everyone, I'm just putting it out there. Alright, we've reached the end. As a reminder, I do make my own third-party content. I released the Civilian NPC Omnibus recently, a downloadable PDF at Drivethru RPG.com. This book has 44 new NPC stat blocks from NPC levels -1 to 10. This time, most of them are themed around civilians you might encounter, from serfs to guildmasters. Check it out, link in the description below. A few people have been asking how they can help me out financially, and right now this is the best way. But that's all for today. If you enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe below. That lets me, as well as YouTube, know that you like this kind of content and would like to see more. And until next time, thank you, good luck, and happy gaming!